Hey everyone, and this is it. This is my review for Monster Hunter Rise on the PC. This review will be mostly geared towards people who have already played Monster Hunter Rise on the Nintendo Switch, but do not worry if you have not played any Monster Hunter game in the past, or you're actually coming over from Monster Hunter World and or Iceborne. I would highly suggest before watching this video to check out the link in the descriptions below. There's two separate videos. The Monster Hunter Rise PC 5 tips you need to know video, where I basically go over what makes Monster Hunter Rise special and what you should be expecting if you've never played any game in the series. The second video is the Monster Hunter Rise The Differences video, where I go over pretty much speaking to the audience of players who have just played Monster Hunter World and or Iceborne, and I go over the differences between those two games, or that one game, versus Monster Hunter Rise and what you should be expecting. So those are complimentary videos to this review, so I just needed to mention them because I'm mostly going to be speaking to players who have already played Rise and going over the differences from the Switch to the PC. So I guess as an opening statement, the way that I would describe this game to any player who's played Monster Hunter Rise is pretty much that this is the deluxe package or a remastered experience. It very much feels like one of those games that releases into a new generation of consoles that already released in last gen consoles as well, but you're just pretty much playing the same game all over again with better visuals, better frame rates, and a little bit of extra stuff, but not really. And that's what pretty much Monster Hunter Rise on the PC very much feels like. First and foremost, the game is going to be available at version 3.6.1. So right out of the gate, all the event quests, every single weekly event quest that you have been seeing become available on the Nintendo Switch is going to be available on day one on PC. You're going to be seeing all the patches, all the bug fixes, all the things that pretty much cleaned up what was a little bit of a rough experience and definitely an unfinished product when it launched on the Nintendo Switch. That's already been cleaned up. That's already been said. And it's pretty much all the monsters are available from Rise on the Nintendo Switch. All the event quests, all the good stuff is there already, so you don't necessarily have to worry about it. What does that actually mean in real gameplay experience? Well, it means that it just feels smoother, it feels a little bit better, it feels like hitboxes are actually working as they're supposed to. Some of the moves for some of the weapons were already like having glitches originally. They were like not hitting as they were supposed to. There were some damage parameters that were adjusted. All those things have been cleaned up, and I'm glad to say that on the PC on day one, you're not going to have any of those issues. There's also the added benefit that some of the event quests will be giving you some pretty decent rewards. I would actually encourage you to check out some of the event quests that are at the very least HR 1 through 4. This would be low rank. Check those out and get some of those armor ones to benefit you to actually carry you into high rank. Some of those like extra potion ones, extra rewards one, not necessarily stickers or anything like that. Those can be optional and they can be done later. But definitely the stuff that gives you like actual item rewards, you definitely want to check out those event quests to help you breeze through the low rank, slog that it actually feels like when you're starting out. And it can't go without mentioning the fact that you will be starting over. You cannot ignore the fact that your character who you spent so many hours with on the Nintendo Switch is not going to be available on PC. You're going to be making a brand new character from scratch. That experience is not necessarily anything different. Again, visuals, which I'll be talking about in the back end of this video, help carry the way that your character will look. Obviously, they're more brighter, more shinier, more detailed, all those beautiful things. But at the end of the day, you're not necessarily happy that you're going to have to start over. Capcom has not necessarily justified their excuse as to why we're not getting cross saves. Maybe cross-play is optional, but they're choosing to not do either one. And at the end of the day, that is one of the biggest barriers for this game, on top of the price, which I'm going to talk about as well. I think that one of the biggest barriers is the fact that people do not want to start over. They feel like they love their character already, and no one will actually blame you if you're choosing to skip over the PC version, at the very least until Sunbreak launches. And then, you can start out from there. But again, it's one of those experiences that you are leaving your character behind, and no one wants to do that. I'll quickly mention my issue with the price and the fact that it's a fully priced game. It's $60. You can certainly buy it in like Fanatical and other places for a little bit cheaper, but at the end of the day, this is a fully priced game. I understand why Capcom does this. I understand why, you know, a lot of people will feel that it's justified, but it isn't to me, and I don't feel like it should have been. I think that at the end of the day, the audience of this game will begin to pick up. I think more people will be willing to give it a shot, and certainly those people who have not being willing to jump over from the Nintendo Switch because they don't want to lose their character will most likely consider playing the PC version. Was this game is like down to 10-15 bucks or something like that right before Sunbreak launches, I think they'll be willing to give it a shot. But until then, you know, because there'll be bundles and stuff, but until then, it's just going to be one of those things that, you know, you just don't necessarily want to pay full price, with the understanding that it's pretty much the same experience with, depending on your PC, better performance. And of course, speaking of performance, this is one of those things that can be achieved with a rather really low-end video card. And this is what I think is very surprising about this game, that you don't necessarily need to have like a 3080 to be able to run this game or anything like that in high visual fidelity and really good frame rates. If you really want to just achieve the most basic minimum thing like 1080p, 60 frames per second, all you're really going to need is like a GTX 1050. You're not even going to need like a 3060 or anything along those lines. If you now want to do like 4K 120 frames, which is, you know, what would be expected of that, then you're probably going to need a 3060, maybe a 2070, 2060, something along those lines. But for someone like me who has a 3080, this game is just a breeze. It's just unlimited frames, you know, ridiculous high resolution. It just runs like a breeze. But I do have a really low end laptop that I was able to check it out on with a 1050, and that thing ran perfectly fine there, 1080p 60 frames. So, you know, at like medium settings, you will have no issue tailoring this game. And that's, I think, one of the things that is a benefit to it, that you can tailor the performance. Essentially, you'll be able to get as good as frame rates as your PC can run. Now, it does have the Nubo as of right now, the game launching on PC. That will always eat up performance. I am not a fan of that. I don't understand why they do it, if they're worried about piracy or whatever it is. Whatever, it's Capcom. I'm not even going to try to give them any pass on this, but you know, it is one of those things that you need to be fully aware of, that it does eat a little bit of performance. Now, when it comes to new features, obviously you're going to have not just the performance boost that it comes with any sort of PC environment, but you're also going to have like aspect ratio changes, 21:9, 16:9, those kind of things. You're going to be able to tweak that to your heart's content. If you have a decent enough rig, you're going to have the option for HDR. You're also going to have high quality textures, which of course are always going to help make the characters and the monsters and even the areas, and even little things like the environmental monsters that you're going to be able to find, the wildlife, if you will, they're just going to stand out more than ever before. And even those little things that you're not necessarily paying attention to, like picking up materials or gathering, even those things now seem so fluid and so great, which is something that on the Switch you weren't necessarily paying all that much attention to, but now you certainly will. I guess another feature that is definitely worth mentioning are the filters as well. This is something that was showcased in, I believe, the launch trailer as well. This was a new feature that they showcased, and it's nice if you want to definitely mess around with that, but you know, it's always optional, so you don't necessarily have to worry. Now, what did this ultimately mean when you're actually playing the game? And this basically means that higher frame rates, smoother animations basically means that the game feels to your eyes, and your very first perception, your very first impressions are going to feel like the game is actually faster. But it actually isn't. It's just playing in the same speed that it always did. But because there's more fluidity, as you see a wind-up attack from a monster, or your swing from your greatsword or anything along those lines, you're going to be able to see more information being sent to the screen. And as you see that, you simply just have a better understanding of positioning. And I think that's what it ultimately boils down. You're going to be able to get out of the way, dodge just a fraction of a second faster, because your positioning is going to be a little bit more clearer based on the monster attacking you or you attacking them. It's all about perception. It feels faster, but in reality it isn't. It's just about the way you end up adjusting to the game itself. Now, certainly one of the biggest criticisms that I could levy to the game on day one is that there is a ton of DLC that's been obviously available on the Nintendo Switch already. I believe it was like 4 DLC packs and a bunch of extra stuff like songs, hairstyles, some layered armors, or at the very least like some layered pieces, like earrings and stuff like that, a bunch of like meticulous stuff that you're not necessarily going to be too concerned with. But all of this stuff being available there on the shop, something that you can buy actual with real money, that is not included as a part of an event quest, that is not included as part of like just included in the game like a DLC or something like that, that's just there for you to be able to pick up for free, it does feel a little bit grimy. Remember that on Switch, all of this stuff was added out. You know, I believe it was like one of those packs per month. So it was fine when the game launched. I believe there was just one pack available when the game launched. But now that all that DLC is available there, when you start to add it up, it adds up to like hundreds of dollars worth of DLC, which is like a little bit grimy that, you know, you're already paying a $60 game and they're already selling you like hundreds of dollars worth of DLC. I'm not a fan of that. I'm always against like paid DLC and stuff like that. And in this game, I guess it's just inevitable. It's just the way that it is. I would have hoped that Capcom decided to add some of those things that perhaps just bonus event quest or something along those lines, for the understanding that at the very least PC players are starting late to the game, late to the party, and you know, here's some bonus things. Here's a couple of rewards that were paid DLC on Switch that we're gonna make available on, you know, PC players for free. That would have been great. I know it would have upset some Nintendo Switch players, but you know, that is the benefit of you waiting to play on PC. And Capcom just decided to just say, hey, we want the money, pay us for it. And it's just a little bit grimy for sure. But once again, if you are wondering why I'm not talking about like the weapons or palamutes or palicos or anything along those lines, those are the complimentary videos that I mentioned at the opening of this review. I've already talked about those things at length in multiple videos, so that's why I decided to skip over those and basically go over the biggest differences that I think are worth considering if you choose to pick up this game on the PC as contrast from the Nintendo Switch. I definitely decided to pick it up. I've been playing it for a couple of days now, thankfully. But again, if you are wondering if you definitely should pick it up, I would honestly tell you to check it out if you really want to. But if you're just fine with the Nintendo Switch version, just keep playing that. This game will eventually become, you know, again, $10, $15, $20 or something like that. PC games definitely drop on price, and that's probably the time that you'll be able to pick it up and whittle at it slowly as you wait for Sunbreak to launch. And I think by the time Sunbreak launches, the PC game will have a healthy community. That's just me presuming, though. I don't necessarily know that. But that's about my review for Monster Hunter Rise on the PC. Hopefully you guys are choosing to enjoy it if you do. But again, the Nintendo Switch version I think is fantastic and one of the best games in that system. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.